Okay, we now have our completed render, or our mostly completed render, actually. What we went ahead and did was we rendered it at 50% to cut down on rendering time. We also reduced our lighting quality on a few things. If we can scrub through the animation here, you can see that we don't have shadows on our planet. And right now I'm showing you the animation that we have rendered in Lightwave because I cannot show you it by using any media player, because of course the software we're using to make the tutorials won't allow us to do that. So we're just showing you this in layout, and in order to do this, so you can see it in the background, actually I'll show you how to do that. If you open up image editor and you load in the finished render as an animation or an image sequence, you can hit D on the keyboard for your display options, and under camera view down here, camera view background, you can set that to background image, and then go to hit Control F7, and for your background image set it to that animation or image sequence, and then make sure you're in the camera view and you can scrub through and watch the animation. And you could also make a preview of it, or you could just play it. And it's a little glitchy because we were doing it in here, and since this tutorial isn't recording at 30 frames per second, it's also a little glitchy because of that. But if we kind of scrub through here and look at the kind of the major points of the animation, you can see our first initial explosion looks really good. The debris is all coming out nicely. We have our streaks coming out of the sides of our shadows, and that first volume light creating that real nice glow around the whole planet where it's exploding. We might want to adjust that a little so we don't get all that glow on top there. And there's just a few adjustments we might want to do. But overall, everything looks pretty good. We could also make this light right here for this explosion possibly last a little longer just by changing the envelope. And I want to mention another thing too, and that is based on the motion blur. And as you can see, we have motion blur, although this is pretty pixelated because it's rendered at half. You can see that we do have our motion blur on our objects, but if we take a look at our debris, there's really no motion blur on it. And the reason for that is we turned off volumetric anti-aliasing. And you need anti-aliasing in order for motion blur to render correctly. And actually, if you notice right here, we do have shadows on a lot of the planet from the debris, so it didn't turn it off completely, but we did go through some of the debris objects and turn off the ray tracing for them. But as you can see, we also didn't render out or dissolve out this last piece. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and throw either a hypervoxel's particle emitter on there and have some fire on there, and then have it dissolve away at about this frame right here, about this part, and just have that kind of dissolve away as the movement. But overall, the scene looks pretty good. Like I said, there's always a few adjustments you have to make, and once we make a real final render, we're going to go ahead and throw that up on the website for you so you can take a look at it a lot fuller framed. And if you notice too, the planet is not completely round, and the reason for that is the aspect ratio. And actually, if we can change that if we go into our camera panel right now, and we can adjust our height, and just so it looks about right. We're not really changing anything. But now you can see it's round, and you'll be able to see the full view of what it actually looks like, and you won't get that weird oval shape, which can happen when you're dealing with pixel aspect ratios other than 1. But that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you learned something about blowing stuff up. Of course, you can go ahead and apply this technique to whatever it is you want to blow up. And we're also going to be covering more techniques in the second tutorial, Pyrotechnics 2. So if you want to check that out, we'll be doing pyroclastic smoke effects, fireworks, and lots of other different types of more advanced hypervoxels, explosions, and dissolving away certain pieces of objects as they're exploding them. So if you want to, you can check that out, and if it's not available yet, it'll be available soon.